some will say the juice is just not worth the squeeze. So that is the issue we're running into right now in the UFC lightweight division. You've got Mr. Arman Tsarukyan, who's on my screen here that you guys can see, kind of left in limbo. No one in the UFC lightweight division is wanting to fight Arman Tsarukyan. Now, in this entire situation, there are two schools of thought that I've seen. The first being Arman made a grave error, mistake, and he's got to pay the price for missing his bout with Islam Makhachev the night before. Now, there's that school of thought, and those folks believe that Arman has to fight someone else before he gets a shot at the title once again. And the second school of thought that I've seen is Arman is and has been the deserving number one contender and should get a crack at the belt, especially now that there is a new champion at the helm in Topuria. Now, where I sit in this whole situation, I'm a little bit on both sides, okay? So my first opinion about the first school of thought, that Arman screwed up and has to pay the price. I believe in that to a certain extent. Now, I know Arman has consistently said he was injured. His back was injured. And I think that that's fair. I also, knowing what I know about this sport, and I've been watching this religiously for a very long time, and I can give you an example. So, like, for instance, Joe Lozon, if you guys remember Joe Lozon, I don't know what year this was, but it was recently. I mean, it was in the last 5 years at least. Joe Lozon had a fight scheduled with another opponent. And obviously at this point, Lozon was at the tail end of his career. But he had done all of his weigh-in stuff. He literally tore his ACL. Like, I think walking, like, I'm pretty sure it was like walking to and from the scale or something like that, because of how dehydrated he was. I'm pretty sure the whole like injury that occurred happened due to the fact of his extreme dehydration. So if we use that example as a piece of evidence, it is very likely that Arman could have hurt his back while trying to make weight, right? And if that is the case, I totally can understand that happening, and I understand him not being able to fight. Because obviously, guys, if you haven't dealt with back pain in your life, it is some of the worst pain you can go through as a human being. And I can say that I have experienced quite a bit of back pain because I have what's called kyphosis. It's basically what causes you to have a hunched back. I have like a minor curvature in my thoracic vertebrae. So the thoracic vertebrae is like the upper back. So think about like where your I want to fucking say thorax. I can't remember what the fuck it is, but it's in the chest area. And so like that's where that vertebrae is. So you might always see me kind of slouching. It's obviously my stuff is not that serious. It's like a minor curvature there that's not supposed to be there. Makes it very difficult for me to do squats, things like that. And actually, I was told by my doctor I shouldn't do squats. I should do it like against a wall, because the way that my back is, even if I have like a strong core to engage, like my back will automatically, as I go down, it will go down too because of that. So basically, very long-winded. I'm breaking down just where I come from in this stance. I've had back pain, and I could not imagine going into a cage fight with back pain. Like, it's a serious thing, so I understand that. Now, where I have a little bit of issue, though, is that people that are in the UFC and close to the UFC have said, especially Dana White himself, has said that you know, he pulled out because he couldn't make weight, and that Dana explicitly said, too, that there wasn't an injury reported, at least by the doctor. And what I think about that, guys, is that you have to remember, if you've ever watched The Ultimate Fighter. I know a lot of people don't watch the new season. I still watch it, but I am such a fan. I've gone back and I think I've watched every season of The Ultimate Fighter. There's older seasons where guys would like say they were injured, but the UFC has a doctor that they go to. That doctor is given the opportunity to basically share. He's able to tell the UFC like, hey, he can't fight or it's up to him, right? And generally when that happens, if the fighter says I can't, but the doctor says that it's up to the fighter, that is like the weird situation where I think the UFC brass looks at those decisions a bit differently. And with that, we've heard Dana say Arman wasn't injured, he just couldn't make weight. If you take it for what Dana White is saying, I 1000% agree that Arman needs to get a fight before he gets a title shot. Like, that is my opinion, because if you aren't injured, and that's the other thing too, is, and I don't want to have to like say that Arman has to do this. I personally think though, if there was a real injury that Arman keeps saying, I think Arman needs to share that detail, because unless he has like some type of, unless he has like that stamp or like that, the receipts, as they would say, from a doctor, you're not going to sway that side of the fan base. You just won't. Like, they're not going to buy the shit until you show them that. Now, he doesn't have to do it. I'm just saying, if I were him, I guess, in this position, I might, if I truly was injured, I would want to leave no stone unturned in proving that I was injured, right? So that's just one way to look at it. Now, assuming, that he is injured, I understand that he couldn't make the fight, even though the ramifications of that are pretty extensive and definitely affect the UFC negatively. I still feel like if he's injured, he shouldn't be forced to go in there and fight, especially like a back injury. It's one thing to have like a broken, pinky toe, or like a bruised rib. Like, regardless, guys, like, as fans, I think it's really weird, especially for like someone like myself who's never been in a cage fight. It's really weird for someone like myself to sit here and bash another man for not wanting to go into a cage injured and fight one of the best fighters in the world. Like, it would be really weird for me to be like fucking shaking my fist at him. Now, as fans, we also like to do our own quarterbacking from home, right? Like, you've seen the meme where the fat guy, he's got in the clown costume and he's watching the UFC and he's like, yeah, I would have taken homie down and put in a rear naked choke, tapped him out. Like, it's easy. It's very easy for us to do that from home. So I have like some areas where I agree with that first school of thought. And then my second feeling, I'm on the other side too, because the thing about Arman, guys, he is calling for this title shot, as he should, I think, in this case. What a lot of fans are forgetting, though, Arman has openly been looking for a fight with someone in the top 5 for ever since he missed this title shot. He's literally been saying, I'll fight anybody in the top 5. Now, he did turn down that fight against Mateusz Gamrot, which at the time, it's just weird, guys, because it's like, I want to agree that, like, okay, you were offered a fight, you said no. But at the same time, I see where Arman was coming from, because he was number 1 in the rankings and Mateusz at that time was number 10. So how do you give him the number 10 guy? And like, now what? He has to go fight a guy who he's already fought before on short, and then they want him to do it on short notice. And clearly Arman had his struggles with that fight. He did lose that fight. Regardless of how competitive it was, that's not an easy fight to walk into on short notice. So I can understand where he comes from, but he has been looking to fight somebody from the top 5 for the last several months, and no one wants to fight him. I mean, all of these fighters, Paddy Pimblett, guys, in my opinion, he has absolutely no fucking like leg to stand on here to say that he's not going to fight Arman, because he's number 9 in the rankings. Arman's number 2. which technically Arman's number one because Islam's still number one because that's how the UFC does it. Until Islam fights, he'll be number one. Paddy, if I'm Paddy, why would you not want to, if you do think you're, the one of the best, why wouldn't you take that fight with Arman to officially get your name put in the hat of getting the next title shot? Like, why wouldn't you do that? And the only reason he wouldn't do that is because it's a bad matchup for him. Like, you can say he's boring. You can say all this shit. Paddy knows for 1,000% fact that Arman is a way tougher fight than if Paddy is to go up against a Charles Oliveira who just got flatline KO'd and is, in his mid-30s now, 36 years old, going up against a Justin Gaethje who's also 36, I think turning 37. Paddy is looking at it from a strategic standpoint, so I have to give him credit there because Paddy is like gaslighting the fans to say, oh, it's a boring thing. It's like he's almost got the same take as Michael Chandler with the whole, it's a nothing burger of a fight, which I think is such a dumb statement. But because the thing is, it's like they say this shit, and realistically, guys, if Paddy were to go out there and beat Arman, like, can you imagine the amount of hype and respect that he would be showered with from, I think, almost every MMA fan alike. Whether you're a Paddy fan or not, we would all collectively respect it. It's the same thing as Ian Gary, right? A lot of us are not, I am not a big fan of Ian Gary's talking and his delusional takes, but even with that, I was one of the first people singing his praises when he took a short notice fight against Carlos Prates and did what he did. Like, even if you don't like him, if you're a fan of the sport, you will collectively respect a guy who does that. Now, Paddy has had a pretty charming, ultra soft way to where he's at. He's got great matchups, and so it doesn't surprise me that he would be shutting down a fight with Arman. But when you really look at the landscape of lightweight, that is one of the only fights you could really make to not only have Arman fight for his chance to get another title shot, but give another solid contender who has a fan base a shot at securing a title shot. So that is my take on that situation. I feel like it's not all of Arman's fault because he has been trying to get a fight, has said, I'll fight any of these guys, and no one will fight him. No one will fight him except for one man. And that man has the biggest balls in all of New Zealand. That man is Dan the Hangman Hooker. Guys, this is my favorite picture of Dan Hooker, man. This is when he was on the stool. Sorry if it's pixelated, but he was on the stool and mid-fight with Mateusz Gamrot and just started like maniacally laughing and saying, I love this shit. Like, that is peak Dan Hooker. And Dan Hooker has been on one about Arman and Arman's whole like thing with Nina Drama, and like he's been shitting on him. And Dan's literally said, like, he's the hardest fight and I want to whoop his ass. And like, that is absolutely one of the best things that Dan Hooker can do. And also it's one of the reasons I think a lot of people love Dan Hooker, because Dan Hooker's never shied away from fighting any of these guys that are tough matchups. I mean, he welcomed Michael Chandler. It didn't go his way. He fought Islam Makhachev on Islam's way to the title. Like, he has always been open to taking those really difficult fights. And so I think what has to happen here now is Dan Hooker is going to be healed up and ready to go. I think that the UFC will likely make this fight. I would hope so anyways, because Dan is the only one that's openly out there saying, I want to take this. So that right there, to me, if the UFC can book that one up and get that done, like that has to happen in 2025, because that allows for a fresh contender in the next title shot, right? If Dan beats Arman, Dan's getting a title shot. Like, he has to. You can't deny it. I mean, if you look at the rankings, Dan Hooker's right there in between, the Paddy Pimblett and some of the other lightweight contenders. And then right ahead of him is just Arman, Max Holloway, and I think Gaethje maybe. So you could also do Hooker versus Gaethje, but with Gaethje kind of taking his stance and saying, I'm going to retire if I don't get a title shot, fine. Have Dan Hooker fight Arman. You've got the only guy openly saying he'll fight him and he wants that matchup. And he's a top 5 guy, top 6 guy. So let's book that. And then for the title shot picture, I think you could do, guys, if Gaethje is 1,000% standing on his heels here. Now, what I might say here is controversial, but you could put Gaethje, just have Gaethje go in there against Topuria and just let it happen. But then what you leave there is Charles Oliveira and Paddy, which is not a bad matchup either. And now that Max Holloway's out and injured, technically speaking, I think you could throw Paddy in there with Charles. But I just feel like it's a stupid fight because I think most of us know which way that's headed. And it's no disrespect to Charles, but I think timeline-wise, age-wise, momentum-wise, everything is stacking up on the side. Size-wise, it's all stacking up on the side of Paddy Pimblett. And I don't know, guys. I just don't like it. I don't like that it's like he's really had no truly hard fights. Michael Chandler was a tough fight on paper, but I think it's just Michael Chandler was also a lot older for this division at the time. Regardless, I think you do that. You put Gaethje in there then against Topuria. I think, even though I'm a Gaethje fan, I think we all know what way that fight ends up. It's probably with Topuria getting his hand raised. Now you've allowed Topuria to build a bit more of a legacy at lightweight, getting a title defense, and then he can then take on the winner of Arman versus Dan Hooker. And in the meantime, maybe with Charles probably going to take some time off. So, maybe when Arman and Dan Hooker fight, whoever wins that fight is penciled in as the next title shot. And maybe on that next card, assuming it's early 2026, you do Topuria versus Arman or Topuria versus Hooker, whoever wins. And then on that same card, you could do the Paddy and Oliveira fight. Whoever wins that is penciled in as the next, in baseball when you're on deck. Yeah. That, they would be the on deck fighter, when you have the fucking donut on the bat and you're swinging 4 bats at once, trying to get ready to fucking clobber the ball. That's what you could do. And then that would be, let's just think about this. If Topuria were to fight the winner of Arman versus Hooker, let's call it January of 2026, then you have a prime candidate for, even if you wanted to give them a few months, then International Fight Week, you could have Ilya, if he's still champ at the time, fighting whoever is the next guy. Now, these all might be very lofty ideals because I don't know that Ilya even plans to stick around that long in this division. He wants to do his 3-belt thing. Guys, I'm going to just tell you 100%, I disagree with this whole 3-belt. I think it's great, and I think that Ilya is skilled enough to achieve that goal. I would like to see him get at least 2 title defenses before getting that option, in my opinion. I think it's unfair for him, even though he is a otherworldly talent here, it is not fair for him to just take over the helm at lightweight and then hold it up to go, basically take over and then leave it and then go on. He needs, in my opinion, for his legacy, to have a concrete legacy, he needs to get 1 to 2, maybe I think a minimum of 2 title defenses at lightweight, and then let him go and do what he's going to do, is my opinion. So that is my take on this whole situation. I wanted to make a video about this because a lot of people are talking about it. I do think as fans, we have to consider all the different avenues, all the different items that are involved here. And that is my, thought process of how you fix this whole debacle that's happening here. You give Arman, the one guy who's in the top of the rankings that wants that fight. Arman has to say yes. If Arman says no to that, then guys, I don't know what to tell him. He might as well just figure out, go to another organization. Because if he doesn't want to fight Dan Hooker, which I don't think that's the case. I think Arman has been very clear he wants to fight anyone that's, within reason of his current ranking. And I think that Dan Hooker is one of those guys. It's Dan Hooker, it's Gaethje, Gaethje's not going to fight Arman. So let's put Dan Hooker in there and get that job done. And then we see where things shake out from there. But yeah, that is my opinion. Comment below. What do you guys think about this whole situation? Like, whose side are you on? Do you think that Arman was truly injured? Do you think it was more so like he just had like a back spasm? Like, I don't know. Like, I feel like him releasing some more information on it might help just prove his case. But yeah, that's my take, guys. Make sure you subscribe to Fight Feed if you enjoy this content, and so that way you can stay on top of all the new content I'm posting. Just want to say thank you all for engaging and watching. I truly appreciate it, and I will see you guys in the next video.